the ones get boosted up. Gengar and the Landorus tend to be very fast, but it's going to be interesting to see what the leads are going to be here. I feel like we're going to see a lot of Incineroar here to make sure that they get the ball positioning early on, so that they can start going through their strategies and making sure that they preserve that Incineroar as well. You want to make sure that it's always in the back to bring forward if you need it.
Well, we're getting into turn 0 here, but before we do, what do you feel like on Federico's side would be the perfect target for that Gengar?
It's interesting to say with that. I think it's going to be the Lunala mostly, because if you can have Lunala's Shadow Shield broken, then something like your Incineroar is going to be able to easily pick up KOs there using those Dark-type moves. But it's going to be on Federico's side, that Lunala and Incineroar.
And Eric matching that with Xerneas and Tapu Fini. So Tapu Fini already hitting the board will be able to change the battlefield with its Misty Surge ability. So you are going to not be able to use Spore if we do have that on the Amoonguss.
Yeah, exactly. This is going to be a really interesting turn. You've got the Incineroar on Federico's side that can easily go for a fake out into that opposing Xerneas, shutting it down from getting the boost up. But you then have to worry about it the next turn. Incineroar really can't touch the Xerneas too much. Yes, it can go for Snarl, start whittling away at the special attack, but obviously when it gets boosted up, it's still going to be a powerhouse to be reckoned with. And I want to see what this Lunala is going to get up to. It's in a position where it could potentially set up something like a Tailwind. We have seen it have access to that really powerful Z move as well, but both of the Pokemon on Eric's side are not Pokemon that you really would want to fire that off into at the moment. They're going to be able to take special attacks relatively well, particularly if Xerneas is able to get the boost up. Tapu Fini, though, on the other side, it could go for something like an Icy Wind, start whittling away at the health, and most crucially, breaking that Shadow Shield on Lunala. Yeah,
breaking the Shadow Shield, and Icy Wind also has another ability to it where you can slow down the opposing Pokemon, but I don't know if you're really going to want to do that here. We're not going to see anything for the Tapu Fini. Incineroar from Federico going immediately for a fake out into that Tapu Fini slot, but that leaves the Xerneas free to use Geomancy and its Power Herb to get that extra boost.
I'm wondering if there's a Roar coming up from this Lunala. That would definitely make sense, having gone for the fake out into the opposing Tapu Fini. But Lunala itself is actually going for a Trick Room. So definitely absorbing the speed here, going to reverse the speed, so now the slowest Pokemon will move first, which will put it at an advantage against that Xerneas. But of course, it's been able to get the boosts up. So it's going to be interesting to see if Incineroar is able to start firing off some Snarls now.
Gonna have to fire off some Snarls, make sure you're whittling away at the Xerneas, remove some of that pressure from the board, but for Federico, I kind of wonder if you need to put something out that's going to be a bit more prominent against that Xerneas.
Yeah, potentially thinking the Xerneas was going to protect on that turn as well, just to not take the chip damage from the fake out, but Eric playing a Brave gets the boost up, and even in this Trick Room environment is going to be able to deal a huge amount of damage. Lunala wisely protecting, wants to keep that Shadow Shield intact, as Incineroar goes for U-turn.
Incineroar is going for U-turn into the Tapu Fini slot, will be able to go back to Federico, and it means we're going to see the third Pokemon that Federico brought to this game 1 right now.
Stack Attacker, I think, would be a really good switch in. What do you think?
Would be very, very good. And guess what? It's like you were up. Yeah, that was a premonition here. Stack Attacker hitting the field, and it's going to put so much pressure on that Xerneas. But, already taking an attack. Eric smartly reading that U-turn was coming, and the Moonblast actually doubling into the Stack Attacker slot.
Oh, I really like this play here from Eric. It is enough to pick up the KO here against that Stack Attacker. Actually, the Trick Room really working in Eric's favor. They're getting that Nature's Madness off, because Moonblast on its own would not have picked up the KO against that Stack Attacker. No. And if it was able to survive going into this next turn, that would have been advantageous for Federico. But being able to go for the Nature's Madness, that will always take down to 50% of whatever health is remaining, and following up with that Moonblast was amazing. He's been able to remove probably the biggest threat to his team on Federico's side. And Federico now forced to bring in the Rayquaza, and that's a Pokemon that does not want to face down against the Xerneas.
You can tell that Eric trained for that matchup against the Stack Attacker as well, probably training the Xerneas in Geomancy specifically to be able to take out a Stack Attacker with the Nature's Madness plus the Moonblast. So I love that Eric went for that brazen play here, and he's rewarded with that one Pokemon knockout.
Yeah, exactly. Tapu Fini really proves to be a crucial member of his team, and it was something he's used previously as well. It's just going to be interesting to see now if he's going to maybe go for a Null in Nature's Madness, start whittling away at the rest of the Pokemon, breaking that Shadow Shield, but instead just switches out, brings in Incineroar. This is good, actually, getting the Intimidate off against that Rayquaza. You don't want to be taking a really powerful Dragon Ascent, particularly as your as your defense is not boosted. That's still going to really hit hard against that opposing Xerneas.
Ooh, and it means we have 2 Incineroar on both sides of the field here, but here's where you get a chance to see what you were talking about before, Lou. Rayquaza going for the Mega Evolution here, and that's going to promote the Delta Stream.
Yeah, the first weather on the field is going to weaken attacks that are super effective against those flying-type Pokemon. But first of all, it's going to be the first Z move of the Latin American International Championships.
Oh, man. Lunala going for its special Z move here. I'm going...
It's the menacing Moonraze Moonsault, this one here. Absolutely powerful. This is an exclusive move to Lunala itself. You can see it there on the screen. It's so powerful.
Oh, yes. And it's going for the Xerneas here, bringing it into the other dimension. Lunala wanting to take out that huge powerhouse that's on the board right now for Eric. Menacing Moonraze Maelstrom going to get charged up here and connect with that Xerneas, and it packs a punch.
Yeah, it's going to deal a good chunk of damage, particularly as Xerneas did get its special defense boost up as well. It's going to be able to survive that as Rayquaza decides to change its stats up as well. It gets its attack boosted back up due to Sword Stance. It doesn't have to worry about Intimidate.
Oh, but is it going to be able to get through this Dazzling Gleam? Rayquaza actually gets one hit knocked out here, and Lunala taking a significant amount of damage from that Dazzling Gleam as well. This Xerneas doing so much work here for Eric.
Yeah, Xerneas really being the powerhouse that it's known to be. We kind of had a joke previously in Internationals where if you get your Xerneas boosted up first, that really does kind of tend to get you the win. But here, using that Dazzling Gleam against the Rayquaza, which we now know is not holding something like a Focus Sash that would have enabled it to survive that turn, and then would have been able to fire off some powerful Dragon Ascent, or even just at this stage going for something like Extreme Speed. But no, Federico is down to his last 2 Pokemon, Incineroar and Lunala. Lunala's Shadow Shield has now been broken as well thanks to that Dazzling Gleam, and it does not want to be facing off against this Incineroar. Incineroar able to go for any kind of Dark-type move here. We've seen it previously running its own Z move as well, with the Darker's Lariat that can deal a huge amount of damage, or even just going for something like a Snarl is easily going to be able to go through Lunala. And I think Federico, knowing this has gone for a forfeit, Eric Rios takes game 1.
Eric going to take that game 1 and didn't have to reveal any more information than the first 3 Pokemon that he brought. In terms of Federico's comeback, though, looking at some of the ability to adapt in this match, what do you feel like Federico needs to change in order to come back for this game 2?
I think he really needs to stop that Xerneas getting set up. I think he was maybe banking on the Protect from Eric. And one thing that we've seen from Eric's playstyle there as well, he played really, really offensively with that Xerneas. Never once protected it. Got the boost up as well, and then went straight for the Moonblast and the Dazzling Gleam, constantly applying pressure.
Played very aggressive.
Yeah, exactly. Regardless of the fact that Trick Room was up, he just knew that Xerneas, even though it was going to be the main target, if it can get damage off, he's going to be able to start whittling away through Federico's team. So that's something that he needs to be able to deal with straight away. Whether that means he would retarget his Fake Out or maybe lead with something like the Stack Attacker that can apply pressure straight away with something like a Gyro Ball, could give him that kind of mind game advantage as well going forward, meaning that Eric does have to kind of play around it.
I think the Stack Attacker lead would be a great choice for Federico, just because it really puts it kind of puts Eric in the back foot.
Yeah.
You know, how do you play around this significant threat to basically your team carry?
Yeah, exactly. And you kind of can then play that mind game as well. Are you going to go for the Gyro Ball and threaten the Xerneas, or actually are you just going to go for the Trick Room straight away, get that set up relatively for free, and then able to have Stack Attacker in a position where he's able to start firing off the Gyro Ball in return or going for those Rock Slides. But that's where I think if you're Eric, you're going to have to use your Incineroar wisely as well, get those Intimidates off against those physical type attackers like the Rayquaza, like the Stack Attacker, and of course the opposing Incineroar as well, and using Fake Out wisely. Protect your Xerneas at all costs, I think, is what Eric needs to do, because it just showed how good it is on this team for him. But I think Federico is definitely going to have to change it up there.
I think there were 2 significant plays for me that Eric made in Game 1 that really brought him the win for Game 1. That first one was correctly reading that the Incineroar and Federico's team was going to go for the Fake Out onto the Tapu Fini, and then that second one was reading the U-turn switch in.
Yeah, exactly. Knowing that Stack Attacker was going to come in, because if you've got the Trick Room up, as Federico, you need to then use it. You know, it's on a timer. You've only got it for those 5 turns, and once they're gone, they're gone. And getting Stack Attacker in, I think, was crucial. And I think the thing I most admire about Eric's play there was being able to utilize the Trick Room with your Tapu Fini and getting that Nature's Madness off. And it's not always the most accurate of moves either, so it could potentially backfire for him. But I think the risk was definitely worth the reward. And if you're Federico, like we were saying, you need to get that Stack Attacker in safely. You now know as well that it cannot survive that combination of the Nature's Madness and the Moonblast following up into that slot. So you need to make sure it comes in safely, whether that means that Xerneas isn't boosted or whether you lead with it. That could be a really crucial play for him here. I don't think we're going to see the Amoonguss at all. Lunala, I think, was a really good option for him there, getting the Trick Room up. And obviously, we talked about the ability so much. It is just so good in this format. And having access to the Z move, able to deal out some big damage, particularly if Eric is going to bring something like the Gengar or the Groudon, you can apply some heavy pressure there as well.
Part of the Ultra format is controlling the speed of the game.
Yes.
So we have a lot of Trick Room setup teams. We have a lot of teams that like to run Tailwind. We have a lot of teams that like to do both just to cover their bases. But controlling the speed of the match really can put you in the driver's seat for the game.
Yeah, and I think as well, one advantage that Eric's got is in that game 1, we only saw the first 2 Pokemon. We only saw the Xerneas and the Tapu Fini there. So we don't even know what 2 Pokemon he had in the back and what 4 he thought would be the best for this matchup against Federico.
We did see the Incineroar, but we did not get a chance to see that 4th and final one. And that's, I think, where Federico is going in a bit blind, because what was that 4th one that Eric was relying on just in case the Xerneas setup didn't work?
You can't then sort of read your player's strategy, can you, as much? You kind of can't see where they're going. And that's always something that's always been advantageous, particularly going into this sort of 2nd and 3rd game, is what changes are you going to make? What are going to be your adjustments, particularly if you're Federico going into this game too, because you're going to want to be able to win. You're going to want to change it up. I think actually the power of that game from Eric has caused a few more technical difficulties here. So I think, Federico's Pokemon are really taking the time to relax,
gotta take a bit of a breather.
Off. Yeah, going to the Pokemon Center, healing up, and then they'll be able to come back fresh for this game 2. But I think we have clearly identified that the Xerneas is definitely the key part there for Eric, and if you're Federico, you need to get around it. I do really feel for him that Stack Attack is coming in. Wasn't able to kind of get off the damage that Federico wanted it to be able to do. But I think still, the lead that he had out there with the Incineroar and the Lunala is quite a standard lead. We see it so often at the moment, particularly if Lunala does want to get up a Tailwind or a Trick Room, as we saw it do there, getting that Trick Room up. It can be really helpful, but like we were talking previously, you talked a lot about turn 0 and how critical it can be, and we saw exactly what can happen when it all goes wrong for you.
And I don't think it went terribly wrong. Federico, I think, would have been able to make a comeback in that game had he not lost the Stack Attack after Eric's incredible read on the U-turn. So, sometimes that's just how it goes, though. Two bad reads in a row really can put you into a disadvantageous position for the game.
Yeah, and I think as well, it kind of shows Incineroar, we were talking about it a little bit before, and how versatile it can be with that fake out and with that U-turn, and it's like Incineroar was listening. It demonstrated all of that in the game, wanted to show itself off, but unfortunately it just wasn't able to get itself into the position or enable the other Pokemon to be in the right spot for it. But it's definitely a Pokemon that if you're Federico, you need to make sure that you've got able to switch things up and adapt, and we're jumping right back into team preview here for game 2.
All right, so we talked about kind of what Federico can do in order to come back, but what does Eric need to do to get the win in this game 2?
Yeah, if you're Eric, you can play it sort of 2 different ways. You can either go for the same kind of strategy, get your Xerneas out there and apply pressure with the Fini as well. Tapu Fini being such a versatile Pokemon, you've got that Nature's Madness dealing big damage, but you can also go for things like Heal Pulse and keep bulking up your Pokemon's HP as well. It's a really good support, particularly when paired next to that Xerneas. Or alternatively, he could really change it up. He could go for something like bringing in that Gengar, apply pressure against the Lunala, and in turn, you could bring something like your Incineroar or the Groudon as your partner Pokemon there. That could then apply a lot of pressure to something like the Incineroar that we've seen paired up with the Lunala on Federico's side, and try and get rid of that Pokemon so your Gengar can get sort of set up relatively safely. It doesn't have to worry about the weaknesses from both the Lunala and the Incineroar. It just have to worry about Lunala.
Well, Federico didn't have to take too much time in order to figure out what adjustments they wanted to make for this game 2. Eric taking a little bit longer just to kind of feel out where he thinks Federico's going to go. So we're getting into turn 0, that critical turn here. Eric now leading the field with Xerneas and Tapu Fini once again. Worked out so well for him, and actually same leads now coming out from Federico.
Yeah, really interesting. Both players here keeping it the same as game 1. Now this is where it gets interesting if you're Federico. Do you go for the fake out into Tapu Fini like you did before, or do you go for the fake out into the Xerneas? And then on Eric's side of the field, are you predicting that he's going to make that adjustment? Or is he going to play it the same way, and then are you going to protect your Xerneas or not? And it comes into the mind games of these players, and this is where the experience really comes into effect. Of course, that Incineroar is going to be the crucial Pokemon in this turn 0. Whoever it fakes out, it's got to first of all hit the right target, making sure that Xerneas doesn't get boosted up. And also, if you are Federico, you need to make sure that even if you do get it boosted up, maybe you've got the utility to remove it from the field later on. It doesn't have to be removed later on, it's already gone.
Yeah, it is already Gone. We're actually going to see a match of the Incineroar Intimidate pressure coming out on Eric Rios' field here. Incineroar going to get off a pretty big Intimidate onto Federico's side of the field. And, ooh, Tapu Fini going for a taunt.
Yeah, I love this reveal here from Tapu Fini. Going to stop that Trick Room going up later on as the Incineroar on Federico's side goes for a U-turn. This potentially was bringing in that stack attacker, but now knowing that he's got the taunt on that Lunala, if he knows he's not going to be able to get that Trick Room out, he may want to bring in something a little bit faster and heavy hitting like the Rayquaza, particularly as Eric has already got his Incineroar out on the field. He doesn't have to worry about him switching it in and taking the Intimidate, but actually going to be the stack attacker again, doesn't have to worry about the Intimidate, and we saw there that it was going for Trick Room. So interesting that he decided to bring the stack attacker in still.
Interesting as indeed. Federico, I feel like he has a game plan that he wants to really execute here for this game 2 that he didn't get a chance to show us in that game 1. So we are seeing right now Federico just going all in on this Stack Attacker Lunala combo.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how he could still get the Trick Room up here, because Stack Attacker, it may also be running that Trick Room, but then you have to worry about not only the Fake Out from Incineroar, but Taunt again from that Tapu Fini. Lunala, if it did want to go for that, obviously needs to switch out, reset the Taunt. So I wonder if maybe if you're on Federico's side, that Stack Attacker could be something like a little bit of bait. He might be switching it out to bring in something else, but instead Lunala's going to leave the field as Incineroar rejoins.
Incineroar is going to rejoin the field, and this is going to be yet another set of Intimidate going on to Eric Rios' side. So Incineroar now getting a bit of that damage fall off here on Eric's side, but Tapu Fini going for another taunt. Eric really doesn't want to have this Trick Room set up here.
Yeah, exactly. The Incineroar on Eric's side, though, going for the U-turn, wants to get back off the field, which I think is really good for Eric here. You want to make sure that you have that Intimidate safe in the back against both these physical attackers on the field. Absolutely.
That's going to be such an important tool for Eric to use later on in the game, preserving it, and now we get a chance to see that fourth and final Pokemon they may have brought to game 1. It is going to be that Landorus that made so much work for Eric in France.
Yeah, exactly. Leaving the Groudon at home, bringing the Landorus, you're going to have double Intimidate on your side of the field. But first of all, we're going to see a Z move here. It's going to be coming out from that Stack Attacker. It's that Continental Crush.
Oh, Continental Crush. That's not something you get a chance to see every day here. And this is going to be the second Z move that we've seen Federico show us going directly into the Landorus slot. And it is going to do not too well, a lot, but also not too much because of that flying type ability and the Intimidate.
It's amazing actually seeing how well he's positioned himself up there. If he hadn't have taken that Intimidate, that I think would easily have picked up the KO there. But interesting enough, the Continental Crush, a really good choice on Stack Attacker there. When we had the European International Championships in the previous format, there was a lot of Continental Crush and Ialigo going around. I believe we saw that matched mirror in the final. So it does prove itself to be a really good Z move in this Ultra format, able to take down against those flying types, particularly something like that Mega Rayquaza. You want to be able to switch out the weather, take good damage on it there. And even against things like the Xerneas, you can still deal some good damage against it.
Absolutely. Now that Stack Attacker has done its job, though, Federico decides that it is time to bring out that fourth and final Pokemon here for game 2. It's going to be the Rayquaza that we saw in game 1. Fake Out now going into the Landorus slot. Didn't do enough to get the knockout, but at least it means that Landorus doesn't get a chance to move yet. Icy Wind now getting revealed from this Tapu Fini is going to do a decent chunk of damage to the Rayquaza that just got switched in.
Yeah, Rayquaza not in his Mega Evolved form at the moment. It will not have that reduced damage from the Delta Stream, so will have to take the full power from that Icy Wind. As you can see, even for a move that does not deal a big amount of damage, it does a good sort of quarter there to the Rayquaza, lowering its speed as well, and that's something that if you're Federico, you need to make sure you're keeping note of. With that Rayquaza in the field though as well, it can start dealing out some big damage, going for something like a Dragon Ascent into the opposing Tapu Fini and removing it from the field. Tapu Fini is a little bit of a troublemaker for Federico's team. But of course, Landorus there, it could switch out. You could bring in the Incineroar again, able to get off another Intimidate and start whittling away at the attack power that Rayquaza has. Of course, Landorus, though, it doesn't really matter what the attack stat of Rayquaza is going to be. If it is able to pick up a KO, pick up a move against it, it's going to pick up the KO.
Yeah, the Rayquaza is sitting in a bit of a precarious position right now for Federico, and I don't feel like we're going to really see it go for the Swords Dance that it revealed in Game 1, but Eric wants to preserve that Landorus potentially for another Intimidate later on, feels that it is about time we get a chance to see this Xerneas do some work here. And now, Rayquaza getting a chance to show us its stuff, Mega Evolving once again, putting the Delta Stream on the board, protecting itself a bit more in case another Icy Wind comes out from that Tapu Fini.
Yeah, I do really like the switch mentioned here from Eric, it doesn't have to worry too much against Incineroar and Rayquaza Xerneas, so it's good to get it onto the field here. And if you are able to maybe get the Geomancy up in the next turn, you're going to put yourself in a really strong position. But you have to worry about that Rayquaza. You need to make sure that you're able to get your Intimidate in, helping out, potentially switching out that Tapu Fini.
Potentially switching it out here. If Federico still hasn't gotten a chance to show us what Incineroar is going to do this turn, but Rayquaza, now that it's Mega Evolved, is going for its spectacular move of Dragon Ascent. Wants to try to take out that Tapu Fini. Doesn't do quite enough to get the knockout, but that Tapu Fini is in the danger zone.
Yeah, exactly. Tapu Fini now able to proc its berry as well, regain some health. So that's some good information there for Federico as well. We've seen recently a few of the sort of Guardians of Alola Tapu Fini running around, so he might be quite relieved to see that it's not that variant on Eric Rios' side. It is packing that berry that will give it back 50% of its health, as the Incineroar on the opposing side of the field does leave the field.
Pinch Berries are so good to have on your support Pokemon just because they get a chance to stick around a little bit longer in the game. But Incineroar, U-turning now. Stakataka now hitting the field. And this is where it gets dicey for Eric because Xerneas hasn't had a chance to set up yet. It's not guaranteed to take out that Stakataka.
Exactly. I love this player from Federico getting Stakataka on the field. Of course, as well, even if the Xerneas was boosted, the Trick Room environment's not up. He's not going to be able to utilize that Nature's Madness followed up by the Moonblast. If you go for the Moonblast, first of all, Nature's Madness is only going to do 50% of the remaining health, so he's not going to be able to use that strategy. Again, as Stakataka looks to be in such a strong position, he also can then straight away apply pressure to that Xerneas. Is he going to go for the Gyro Ball, just try and pick up the KO? And that's where Eric could bring potentially back in his Landorus. It is in the back, it is low health, it's not going to do too much. You can get that crucial Intimidate off though against both these physical attackers, and then maybe valiantly pick up the KO for that Xerneas so that it can safely switch out. But instead, actually going to be Incineroar.
Eric's feeling the pressure there, wants to ensure that Xerneas is going to be available in the later stages of the game. And in another Intimidate now coming out into two pretty heavy hitters.
Yeah, Rayquaza, I think, wisely leaving the field, though, wants to have that Intimidate reset. Of course, the winds will leave, as Federico says, hey, you want to bring your Incineroar? I'll bring mine onto the field, too.
Yeah, we're going to have a little bit of a cat's meow here on the battlefield, but once that Intimidate finally fires off here for Federico, it's time for a Nature's Madness that Stakataka avoids. Stakataka going for the Gyro Ball now into the Xerneas slot. Very smart from Federico to cover their bases. Does a bit of chip damage, but not too much.
Oh, I feel like that was commentator's curse once again, talking about the accuracy of that Nature's Madness.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it does miss, and Stakataka is able to deal a little bit of chip against that opposing Incineroar. Would have, of course, done a huge amount of damage to that opposing Xerneas, and it's something Tapu Fini has to watch out for as well. It does not want to be taking Gyro Balls either.
No.
Of course, Eric now able to go for the fake out here with that Incineroar. But instead, it's just going to be Stakataka leaving the field. Doesn't want to take any damage, and I think that's wise from Federico. That's going to be crucial to him taking down the Xerneas later on in the game.
It's been a rotating door of Pokemon here for this game too, but wisely for both of these players, they are trying to increase the longevity of their Pokemon in this game. A good critical hit though, and a flinch onto the Tapu Fini means that it's not going to be able to use a Nature's Madness or go for that again, but a critical hit from the U-turn here from Eric is going to bring it back and give him a free switch in to potentially that Xerneas.
Yeah, exactly. Both the Incineroar there getting that cheeky little critical hit on the fake out and U-turn respectively, allowing Eric to bring that Xerneas back into the field, particularly as Stakataka has left. It gives him the opportunity to get that Z-move back, get that Geomancy back up as well. Rayquaza, of course, having joined the field, that's another Pokemon that you're going to have to worry about dealing out some big damage with Dragon Ascent. We've already seen how much it can do to Tapu Fini, and if you're Eric, this might be the opportunity to bring back in that Incineroar or that Landorus and get that Intimidate off.
Intimidate could be such an important tool, and that's why we've seen Eric protect their Landorus as well as that Incineroar, because both of them carrying the Intimidate do so much work against Federico's team.
Yeah, exactly, and this is something both players are demonstrating really well in this game too, is constantly assessing the ball position. They're not only looking at the turn ahead, but they're maybe looking 2 or 3 turns ahead and seeing where they want to go. Also reading what their opponent's going to do, and you can see on the timer there as well, going down to 6 seconds on Eric's time. He's really taking every moment that he can to sort of analyze the board and see what he wants his Pokemon to do. No switches coming out though. Rayquaza's going to take it away.
Rayquaza taking it away. Dragon Ascent has the ability to knock out Tapu Fini right here, and now Eric going to go ahead and take the knockout on that one, and that's going to give Federico a 1 Pokemon advantage in this second game.
Yeah, the first KO of this game too, as Xerneas follows up with a Dazzling Gleam. It is unboosted, but against that Rayquaza at low health, it is enough to pick up the KO.
Good trade here, I think, coming out from Eric. Eric, removing that big damage pressure from Federico means that he doesn't have to worry about anything else except for that stack attacker that's still in the back.
Exactly, and I love this play here from Federico going for that U-turn. Yes, he can switch in another Pokemon, but the fact that he's now put Incineroar into the back in his Pokeball, and Rayquaza's gone down, it gives him the opportunity to bring it forward again into the next turns for that Intimidate, but most crucially, I think, for that Fake Out, maybe going to try and stop that Geomancy going up as Lunala rejoins the field as well.
Lunala rejoining the field, and now both of these trainers have the chance to decide what that Pokemon is going to be on the field to support their 2 damage Pokemon. An Incineroar coming back out for Federico, and Eric smartly bringing out their Incineroar as well.
Yeah, exactly. You want to see both these fire Pokemon on the field here. Intimidate, of course, going off across the board, but I think this is a really good position here for Federico. You have access to that Fake Out, which is something that Eric... Yes, he can fake out that opposing Incineroar, and that's going to come down to the speeds of how these 2 Pokemon have been trained, but you cannot use Fake Out against the Ghost-type Lunala. So if you're the Incineroar on Federico's side, depending on who you target, you might be in a position to get the Lunala Z move off here as well before the Xerneas is able to get that +2 special defense boost. We saw how much damage it did previously with the boost. So once that's been removed, you can easily hit it really hard on that special defense side. And that's something that if you're Federico, you want to utilize. That Z move is precious. You can only use it once a game. So you want to make sure that you are using it to his full potential.
Yeah, and something that I think is important to note is that Lunala still has its Shadow Shield. So Lunala is going to be sticking around for quite a bit here. And Federico's Incineroar moves first here. Xerneas going for the Geomancy. Did Federico make the right read here to go ahead and fake out Eric's Incineroar?
Well, going for the Fake Out into that Incineroar means it's not going to be able to do anything, leaving that Xerneas free to get this Geomancy boost up. So going to boost up to +2 special attack, special defense, and +2 speed as well. So whether this Lunala's gone for something like Trick Room, just to try and put itself on the other foot there, that could be quite crucial. That's exactly what he goes for. Notably as well, the Incineroar on Eric's side was not going for Fake Out there. We saw it flinch just before the Trick Room went off there. So I think maybe calling that target was a good read for him there.
Yeah, I think that was going to be an excellent read. I don't think we're going to be seeing a Z move coming out from the Lunala, but we might see some extra powered Moon Blasts here. We did just see the Continental Crush coming up for the Sakataka earlier in the game. You know, Lunala really right now wants to set up itself for success against the Xerneas that got boosted.
Yeah, and of course, Tapu Finney's gone down on Eric's side as well. He doesn't have access to that Nature's Madness Moonblast combination he used previously in Trick Room. So you are going to be relying on the Incineroar and the Landorus to start using that Intimidate against the opposing Stack Attacker that we know is still in the back. Incineroar doesn't really do too much against Stack Attacker. It does a lot against this Lunala though, so that's something Federico has to worry about. But if that Landorus is packing a ground type move, which we almost always see it do, that's a good pressure you can apply to both the Incineroar and the Landorus.
Well, we're going to see a double protect here from Eric. He wants to stall this out just a little bit. It will remove 1 turn from Trick Room, and we're also seeing that Lunala going for a Moongeist Beam here into the Xerneas slot gives a lot of information to Eric about what Federico is trying to target.
Yeah, interesting as well. Knockoff on the Incineroar on Federico's side, not a move we see too often, just because of all the sort of orbs and Z moves running around and Mega Stones that cannot be knocked off. It has dropped in popularity a little bit. And another interesting move here is the Throat Chop onto the opposing Lunala. Does a good amount of damage, and this will stop any roars if that's potentially something that Lunala has.
Yeah, no roar here. Knockoff, though, which will reveal that the Incineroar for Eric was holding a Pinch Berry. Now, though, time for the Lunala to show us what it's got here when there's no double protect on the board. Moongeist Beam hitting into the Xerneas slot, but that extra defense boost helping it out so much here. Dazzling Gleam firing back will get a knockout on the Incineroar, barely missing it on the Lunala.
I would have loved to have seen the Lunala go for its Z-move at that opportunity, particularly as it's got its Shadow Shield broken. It's not going to be hanging around for too long, and with the Xerneas being boosted up, you want to get that big damage out as well. You could have been able to get that damage off there, but we have already seen a Z-move on there, haven't we?
We have. Unfortunately, from this Stack Attacker that's coming back in, we got a chance to see that Continental Crush, so no Z-move again for this game. As a reminder to those of you watching at home, 1 Z-move per game, per trainer. So the only person that has a chance to show us what they have as a Z-Crystal would be Eric.
Yeah, exactly. And that Stack Attacker rejoining the field as well. It uses Continental Crush earlier. It does now apply a lot of pressure in this Trick Room environment with something like a Rock Slide. Not only can Rock Slide deal some good damage, particularly to that opposing Incineroar, but it does have that flinch chance as well. does give me some nightmares back to the Oceania International Championships. But you can see its full potential here, particularly in Trick Room, is the environment it wants to be in. It could go for Gyro Ball against that opposing Xerneas. It could go for the Rock Slide. And I think bringing in Landorus here for Eric is a really good play for him. Landorus isn't going to be hanging around too much, but if you can get that Intimidate off, maybe dodge a Rock Slide or two, you're going to be able to apply some pressure to that Stack Attacker in return.
Yeah, Stack Attack is such a physical attacker, so this Intimidate going to do a lot here. And Xerneas, again, trying to wait out these turns of Trick Room by using a Protect, and correctly reads that Federico was going to go for a Gyro Ball into that slot. Moongeist Beam, though, that's going to be the last leg for Landorus to stand on in this game.
Yeah, exactly. Moongeist Beam coming down from the sky into Landorus, and it will be KO'd, returning to his Pokeball, leaving Eric there with his Xerneas on the field and the Incineroar. We know will be the Pokemon that has to switch back in. It's going to be the last time it's able to get Intimidate off against his Pokemon. But of course, crucially for that Stack Attacker, it's now going to be at -2. So it can potentially not be picking up KOs against this Incineroar. But one thing that's worthy of note as well is that Knockoff did remove the Berry from Incineroar. It does not have that extra safety sort of in its back pocket there. Once its health has gone down below that mark, it will keep whittling away. Lunala is leaving on borrowed time here. It's in the red health here, and something like the Throat Chop coming out from Incineroar is going to be able to pick up the KO. But you probably at this stage want to target down that Stack Attacker.
I think so. Eric, though, might... Eric is in a pretty good position here. The Intimidate not able to get a reset now on Federico's side because they're both down to their last 2 Pokemon. So that Stack Attacker going to be at -2 for the rest of this game.
Yeah, exactly. You can't escape from it here. But it still can apply so much damage with something like the Gyro Ball and Rock Slide. And there's not a lot that Xerneas can really do to take it down in one hit. It's going to have to be followed up by something. Lunala going for the Protect here, though, as the Incineroar does go for the Fake Out wisely into that opposing Stack Attacker. They're going to stop it dealing any damage and leaving Xerneas free to deal out some big damage.
Xerneas going for a Moonblast, though. Oh, and a great read here, knowing that we were going to see a Protect from Federico does over half damage to that Stack Attacker.
Yeah, and wisely protecting as well for the Lunala, stalling out the last turn of Trick Room. You can maybe deal out another Moongeist Beam against this opposing Xerneas. That could help out Stack Attacker with the -2 attack, trying to pick up that KO with the Gyro Ball. But the one thing you have to worry about for Federico is the time here, because both your Pokemon are really low on health. You don't have many more turns in this game to be able to start picking up the KOs against both of these Pokemon. And if Eric's able to wisely do some protects, he could easily kind of stall out these next 2 turns and just keep whittling away at Federico's team.
Xerneas has a chance to protect once again here, as we've seen Eric consistently go for protect, attack, protect, attack.
Yeah, exactly. Xerneas playing a really strong game here from Eric. You know, he used it so offensively in game 1, but he's definitely using it a little bit more strategically here with that balance of defense and offense in this game too. Stack Attacker going straight for the Protect, knowing that Xerneas wants to pick up the KO against it.
Yeah, that's going to be a really good read here. Now Moongeist Beam getting a chance to move after Xerneas made that whiff. Moongeist Beam targeting down that Xerneas slot. Still half health, and that Throat Chop into the Lunala. That's going to be it. The knockout here, leaving Eric with the 2-1 Pokemon advantage going into the final stages of this game.
Yeah, it's all going to come down to the Stack Attacker now, and unfortunately Trick Room is over for it, so it is going to be the 3rd and final Pokemon to move, and we've already seen how much that Moonblast can deal from that Xerneas. It should be able to pick up the clean KO against its opposing Stack Attacker, but what a phenomenal game from both these players in game 2. The way that they really adjusted and were able to adapt into this next game. You can look at Federico's timer as well. He's only got 16 seconds left on his My Time, and he really utilized every opportunity he had in this game 2 to make sure that he was constantly adjusting his ball positioning and keeping up with Eric, but ultimately he's not been able to remove that Xerneas. It's still standing at the end of this game too.
That's the kind of play we expect to see, though, from both of these players that are just so strong.
Yeah, exactly.